Former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney has now announced he's running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party.
If you choose me as your leader, we will offer Canadians a clear choice in the next election. Experience.
So far, the only person running or rumored to be running for the Liberal leadership who is from Quebec is former MP Frank Baylis. So how important is that province to winning a leadership or an election? We are joined in studio now by Charles Bird, Liberal strategist and principal at Earnscliffe Strategies. Good to have you in today. Thank you.
Good morning.
So let's start with Mark Carney. Obviously, we were watching that announcement yesterday. He says he's focused on getting the economy back on track. He compared his, life and work experience to that of Pierre Poilievre's. What do you think of that strategy?
I think it fits with where he is in the race, which is at the moment definitely one of the favorites, in many respects perhaps the prohibitive favorite. I mean, he comes in with that sort of new car smell of being an outsider, not overly associated with the Trudeau government. And yesterday's launch was solid, not spectacular, but good. And
where was he lacking?
French. That there's a lot of concern that his French needs to be much better, and that may come with time. And also, he's a non-politician, so doing a major national launch like that is not an easy thing. So to the extent that he got through it and did reasonably well, full points to him.
But is that one of those things that people are like, I'm sort of sick of that politician, presentation. Does that work in his favor?
A little bit, but there are some requisite communication skills that help in politics, and the ability to deliver a message with some degree of concision, some degree of passion, and the ability to make messages resonate. And, I think he'll come around in that regard.
He also, of course, was targeting the far left, saying, some people think more government spending is the answer. Do you think his centrist approach works?
Yes, I do. I think one of the things that has haunted the current Trudeau government is the sense that it's drifted to the left, that's a little too sanctimonious, concerned about things which really don't relate to bread and butter issues for ordinary Canadians. So that seems like a sensible political approach on his part.
So let's talk about, you mentioned French. Let's talk about Quebec. Every competitive Liberal leadership race has included at least one Francophone candidate. We're talking since 1958. This time, the party doesn't have one. So why do you think that is?
That's a very good question. It may have to do with the dynamic of the race. For instance, François-Philippe Champagne, Minister of Industry or Innovation, Science and Economic Development, Mélanie Joly, Minister of Global Affairs, Foreign Affairs, both were considered to be sort of leading Quebec contenders who have dropped out. There are others. Mark Miller is somebody who I keep an eye on, although, he's often expressed the view that he's not prepared to run at this time. But you're right, it's a serious issue because there are 78 seats in Quebec. That's almost a quarter of the total seats in the House of Commons.
Yeah, other than Ontario, right? They have the second most seats in the country. So let's talk about that, because the latest Abacus data poll, has the Liberals in third spot, right?
Yes.
Which is tough.
Yes.
For the Liberal Party, behind the Bloc Québécois and the Conservatives. You can see the numbers there. When we think about Quebec, Quebec is essential. Quebec is essential to winning. So what does the party need to do to win over those votes in Quebec?
Not only is it essential, but the Liberal Party has had a strong traditional relationship with the province of Quebec. Back in the days of Pierre Trudeau, it used to win virtually every seat in the province, which was a guaranteed base. At the moment of the 78 seats in Quebec, the Liberals hold 33, the Bloc Québécois hold 33, the Conservatives only hold 9. And so Pierre Poilievre will really be keen to try to make a breakthrough. The hope is that a new candidate like Mark Carney or a different candidate like Chrystia Freeland might be able to punch through there. Time will tell. But I will say the Bloc is a bit of an issue. Separatism is not a going concern in Quebec, but it's always sort of lingering at the margins. And that's something that the number one job of any prime minister is national unity. And you're seeing that in terms of our debate, in terms of trade with the tariffs, Americans. It's especially true when it comes to separatist movements.
It was interesting to see when we jump back to the French language that former BC Premier Christy Clark, she said she just didn't have enough time. She didn't want to throw her hat in because she didn't have enough time to get her French up. And then we have Chandra Arya causing a bit of controversy, right? By saying he doesn't think French Canadians care if the Prime Minister is bilingual. What do you make of that?
I don't like that one little bit.
No, I think
I don't think, in fairness to Mr. Arya, I don't think he's a a serious contender.
Right.
I'm a little bit worried that he's playing something of a pro-Palestinian card, which is certainly not in the character of the Liberal Party of Canada, and you know, traditionally a strong pro-Israel stance that we've taken as a party. So we'll see. I mean, there are two main contenders. It's right now, it is Mark Carney and likely Chrystia Freeland, who will announce on Sunday by all estimates. A lot of the other big names have dropped out, and we'll see how it goes.
We will certainly see how it goes. Charles Bird, thanks for walking us through.
Thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.